Evening, and a warm welcome to all our viewers who have just joined who have tuned into Ahlebait TV live from the London studios with your host Naveed Hussain. And Alhamdulillah, with our Islamic scholar Syed Muhammad Musawi, who joins us this evening once again for our viewers who may have questions, concerns, or would like to share anything with our Islamic scholar. These are the nights, and we are quickly coming to, we are approaching Mahi Ramadan. So you will have a lot of questions regarding Mahi Ramadan and the very important night of Nima Sha'ban. Sayyidina, very good evening to you, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless you and all our brothers and sisters, and may Allah grant all the mu'mineen and mu'minat Mubarak in the happy occasion of the birth anniversary of the Imam of our time, the greatest Imam. In fact, the Imam who is the carrier of the knowledge of the Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him and his holy progeny, Imam al-Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. In fact, the occasion of the birth anniversary of the Imam of our time calls us to reconfirm our allegiance to the Prophet and to Quran and to all the infallible Imams from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, and makes us, in fact, remember the great bounty from Allah who granted us such great leadership, such divine and great leadership in the existence of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam. And the matter of Imam al-Mahdi is a matter of Quranic necessity, because Allah has mentioned in Quran that وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ أَنَّ الْأَرْضِ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. Allah said, we have written in the Zabur after the dhikr that the earth will be inherited by our pious servants. And as you know, the earth means the whole earth will be inherited by the pious servants of Allah. This is the promise of Allah, and this is the fact of the Imam who will be the leader of the whole world, who will come to remove all types of injustice and establish the peace and harmony and justice all over the world. The matter of Imam al-Mahdi is not a matter of Shia sect only, because there are hadiths in the Sunni books about Imam al-Mahdi, up to the extent that even Wahhabi sheikhs say that a person who denies the Imam al-Mahdi is denying a fact in Islam which is mentioned in hundreds of authentic hadiths. You might ask, then what is the difference between Shia and Sunni in the matter of Imam al-Mahdi? You see, as far as the principle is concerned, the hadith in Sunni and Shia books is very clear, hundreds not 10 or 20 or 50 hadiths, no, hundreds in Sunni and Shia books that Imam al-Mahdi will establish the justice in this earth. We believe in the fact that Imam al-Mahdi is the 12th Imam from the 12 Imams of Ahlebait. He was the son of Imam Hassan al-Askari, who was the 11th Imam. And Imam al-Mahdi was born in Samarra in year 255 after Hijrah. And because all his fathers and forefathers were killed by the enemies, Allah has saved Imam al-Mahdi from the tyrant by keeping him away from the eyes of the public for the interest of Islam. Allah kept Imam al-Mahdi away from the public life. Imam al-Mahdi is in the public life. He is living with us. He sees us and knows us, but we don't know him. Some of our Sunni brothers object that how come a person who was born before more than 11 centuries is still alive? We tell them that all Muslims believe in Al-Khidr alayhi salam. And Al-Khidr was born thousands of years before the Prophet of Islam. Al-Khidr was alive when the Prophet Musa was alive. And you know his story in Quran, how Al-Khidr was requested by the Prophet Musa to accompany him and to learn from him. And all Muslims believe that Al-Khidr is still alive. We don't have any Muslim scholar who can claim that Al-Khidr is not alive, who is more in his life. Al-Khidr, who was born definitely more than 4,000 years back, or Imam al-Mahdi, who was born in year 255. So in the faith of every Muslim who believes in Al-Khidr as a living, pious servant of Allah, there is nothing unusual in Imam al-Mahdi being the most pious servant of Allah to remain alive by the order of Allah for 100 or 1200, 1100 or 1200 years. Definitely Al-Khidr is 4,000 years or more old. So there's no objection on that as far as Quran is concerned. It is the order of Allah. The question of Imam al-Mahdi, whether he was born or he will be born, that question, because some of our Sunni brothers believe in Imam al-Mahdi, but they say he will be born. And we say that Imam al-Mahdi was born. Imam al-Mahdi is the 12th Imam from the divine Imams after the Prophet of Islam, who have been mentioned by the Prophet himself, who said, Al-a'immatu min ba'di ithna ashar. The divine leaders of Muslims after me will be 12. Kulluhum min Quraysh. All of them from Quraysh. And in narration, in Yanabi al-Mawadda, min Bani Hashim. All of them from Bani Hashim. If you read the Sunni books and Shia books, you will find hundreds of narrations that the divine leaders after the Prophet will be 12. Now, about the fact that Imam al-Mahdi was born in Samarra for his father, Al-Hasan al-Askari, in year 255 after Hijrah, or the claim of some that he will be born, we say that the birth of Imam al-Mahdi was recorded in hundreds of references and sources. Among them, many of the leading Sunni scholars. From them, the famous Nasaba. Nasaba means the person who is knowledgeable in the history of the family trees, who is called Abu Nasr Sahal bin Abdullah al-Bukhari, who was alive in the 4th century after Hijrah. He himself has in his book Sir al-Silsila al-Alawiyya, he recorded that Imam al-Askari alayhi salam had one son. Imam al-Askari alayhi salam had one son who is al-Qa'im al-Hujjah. One. Another scholar from the Sunnis who is the author of Al-Majdi fi Ansab al-Talibiyin in page number 130, he also recorded that Imam Hassan al-Askari had one son, Imam al-Mahdi. Number 3, the famous Sunni alim Al-Fakhr al-Razi. Al-Fakhr al-Razi is a well-known Sunni scholar who is the author of the famous tafsir, which is called Tafsir al-Razi. Al-Fakhr al-Razi, he mentioned in his book Al-Shajara al-Mubarakah fi Ansab al-Talibiyya, under the title of the Imam al-Askari, that Imam al-Askari had son who is Sahib al-Zaman. Also in Saba'ik al-Dhahab fi Ma'rifat Qaba'il al-Arab by Muhammad Ameen al-Suwaidi, he mentioned that Imam al-Mahdi was 5 years when his father passed away. Also, in Medina, there is well-known scholar in the family trees. He mentioned his name is Anas bin Yaqub al-Kutbi in his book Al-Usul fi Dhurriyat al-Bad'at al-Batul. He mentioned Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam being the son of Hassan al-Askari. We have got big list of Sunni scholars who admitted that Imam al-Mahdi was born for his father al-Hassan al-Askari. How come a person comes and claims that Imam Mahdi was not born? Some of them say that yes, he was born, then he passed away. Okay, we say that how can we know a person that he passed away when no mention at all that he passed away? When he was born, his birth was recorded. And you claim that he passed away? Where? Usually, we should have any mention in the history, in any book, by any scholar, from any historian that he was passed away. No one at all mentioned that Imam Mahdi passed away. And that should be enough for those who have sense. Imam al-Mahdi was born in Samarra, and Allah kept him away from the eyes of the tyrants, and he is still alive. He is still alive, and he is waiting for the permission from Allah to come back to the public life, to establish justice all over the world. We send from this place, this time and all time, our humble salutations. Assalamu alayka ya Maulaya ya Sahib al-Zaman wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Sayyidina, for a very interesting and important topic of tonight's show. Sayyidina, touching on some of the points that you've raised, those who say that, the 12th Imam or the Mahdi wasn't born. However, we find in history that during the time when the soldiers of the Abbasi Khalifa at that time found out that there was a son born to the 11th Imam, that the soldiers were sent, they were looking for someone. So that in itself, for them to deny that their child or a child wasn't born, you wouldn't find soldiers looking and searching for the house of the 11th Imam after finding out a boy was found, seemed to be there. So would you say this in itself is evidence that there was someone that they were looking for if they believed that there was no one born?
Yes, please. Yes, in fact, the enemies of Ahlul Bayt, they were searching for the son of Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam, because they know in their books that the 12th Imam will be the Imam who will destroy injustice and establish justice. That's why they were waiting to catch him and kill him, exactly like Fir'aun. Fir'aun was told that a child will be born among Bani Israel. He will destroy your kingdom and establish a kingdom of justice. That's why Fir'aun was watching all the women of Bani Israel, and any woman discovered to be pregnant, they used to kill the child even before birth. Allah made the birth of the Prophet Musa secret. Allah looked after Musa, and Allah made Musa live in the house of Fir'aun without the knowledge of Fir'aun. So when Allah wants something, Allah does it, despite the tyrants and what they want. Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam was expected by the enemies of Ahlebait. They used to send their spies, women spies, to the house of Imam Hassan al-Askari to check his wife, whether she is pregnant or not. Allah made the pregnancy of Imam Mahdi secret. Imam al-Mahdi, when his mother was pregnant, Allah made her pregnancy not clear for the women. Usually the pregnancy has got some shape in the body of the mother. Allah kept the pregnancy of Imam al-Mahdi in his mother's womb unclear to the women. Even near relatives did not know that the lady Nargis was pregnant. We have in the history that the aunt of Imam al-Askari, Lady Hakima Khatun, she came to visit Imam al-Askari, and then she wanted to go back home. Imam told her, my aunt, please remain tonight at our home. Why? He told her, because my wife will be delivering tonight my son al-Mahdi. She said, but your wife is not pregnant. Allah did not let anyone know about her pregnancy. You know, one of the names of Lady Nargis Khatun is Aqeel. Aqeel is the lady who is pregnant, but no pregnancy sign on her body at all. Her body is just like not pregnant lady, Aqeel. So Imam Mahdi was born same night, which is 15th of Sha'ban. Allah kept his birth secret from the eyes of the tyrants. Imam al-Mahdi, when he was born, Imam al-Askari alayhi salam allowed his very close and very trusted companions to see the Imam. They saw the Imam, and Imam told them, this is the Imam after me. When Imam Hassan al-Askari alayhi salam was killed by the tyrants by poison, then on the namaz janaza on the Imam, the tyrants were there. Imam al-Askari had a brother by the name of Ja'far. Ja'far came to pray namaz janaza on Imam Hassan al-Askari. Before he starts the namaz, a young person, very young, came and told Ja'far, my uncle, I'm more entitled to pray on my father. So he kept him aside, and the Imam al-Mahdi performed namaz mayyit, namaz al-janazah, on his father. The tyrant saw a young person who performed namaz al-janazah on his father. But after namaz, they could not see him anywhere. Allah made him disappear from their eyes. So with all their efforts, Allah made them blind to see Imam or catch him or know where he lives. So it is matter of miracle. Allah wanted to keep Imam al-Mahdi safe for establishing the justice and the rule of Islam for the future. Yes, please.
Thank you very much indeed, Sayyidina. Sayyidina, as we approach to Nima Sha'ban, which is tomorrow evening, Sayyidina, what are the a'mal, what are the best a'mal to perform in this night? If you can shed light upon this, please.
The night of 15th of Sha'ban is the greatest night in the whole year after the night of Qadr, Shab Qadr. Even we have got in the hadith that فيها يفرق كل أمر حكيم. 15th of Sha'ban is the night in which Allah will ordain every matter according to his wisdom. The night of Sha'ban has got many a'mal. Ghusl and ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam from your place, wherever you are. Just face the direction of Karbala and recite ziyarat. The minimum ziyarat, you can say, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah, Assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the hadith, that the mu'min who recites the ziyarat of Imam Hussain alayhi salam in the 15th of Sha'ban, he will be shaking hands with all the prophets. All the prophets. It is also recommended in the 15th of Sha'ban to recite the salawat which we recite every day in the noon. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad shajaratin nubuwwah, which is mentioned in the books of dua. In the night of 15th of Sha'ban, reciting that salawat of shajaratun nubuwwah wa mawda' al-risalah wa mukhtalaf al-malaika wa ma'din al-ilm wa Ahlebait al-wahy is recommended. Also, it is recommended to recite Dua Kumail. Also, Namaz al-Shab, which is 11 rak'ats, which is recommended, highly recommended every night. But in the great nights, it has got more importance. In fact, we have got in the hadith that Janab Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam used to order her family members, her children, in the 15th of Sha'ban to rest little bit in the day to be able to be awake the whole night of 15th of Sha'ban for worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is highly recommended to repeat the salawat, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and also istighfar, astaghfirullah rabbi wa atubu ilayh, and also giving charity, sadaqah, and praying for your parents, your family, for the mu'mineen, and most importantly to pray for the reappearance of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam.
Thank you very much indeed, Sayyid. So then we move on to our question here. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
A person has negative or bad thoughts in his mind about other people, even though he never acts upon those thoughts, and he also tries not to think in such a way. Is it considered haram to have such thoughts? Does thinking bad thoughts about other people have a detrimental effect on the person who thinking such thoughts?
Having bad thoughts about others has got many situations. To think bad about believers, lovers of Allah, the Prophet, and Ahlul Bayt is very bad. It is, in fact, against what the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt taught us. The Prophet and Ahlul Bayt taught us to always have high regards for every believer. In fact, to try to make every believer that you can make them happy, to pray for them when you are alone, pray for the believers who are not in front of you. So having bad thoughts about the believers is definitely very bad, and he should avoid thinking bad about any believer unless he has got a concrete evidence that such person did wrong. And even if someone did wrong, do you know whether he has repented and he did seek forgiveness or no? Maybe Allah has forgiven him. Even if we know that someone did bad sometime, somewhere, and you came to know about it, Allah is the most merciful, the forgiver. He forgives. So in principle, it is very bad to have bad thoughts about the believers. That is only in his heart. But if you take any action against anyone, even in your face, when you talk to him or you look at him, bad face, bad look, any action of your bad thoughts about someone, that is more wrong. It can be haram if you talk or act against anyone based on your bad thinking on him or regarding him. So I advise the brother to take the bad thoughts away from his heart and to remember that the bad thoughts regarding the other believers come from the shaitan, because shaitan is always interested in creating enmity and rift and difference and dispute between the believers. The mu'min has in his heart love to all the believers, and the mu'min always prays to Allah for the good for every believer.
Thank you very much indeed, Syed. Moving on to our next question. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
When husband dies, wife has to observe iddah. So is it right for the widow to go to the cemetery for the burial? And also before COVID, ladies of some mosques used to attend mosques for Salah Janaza and stay at mosque and pray for marhum. What is better? What is right and better for Muslim women?
You see, if husband dies, his wife must observe iddah. Iddah is a period of 4 months and 10 days in which the widow will not be allowed to dress any dress of happiness or celebration. She is not allowed during the 4 months, 10 days to put makeup or to do anything which makes her in front of others celebrating. During Iddah, the 4 months, 10 days, is she allowed to go for namaz or majlis or to Qabristan cemetery? The answer is yes. As far as she is wearing the full hijab and not wearing any cloth of celebration and not putting any makeup or anything which is not allowed for her during the Iddah, she is allowed to go out. More than that, if she is working, is she allowed to go for work? If she works in a company or school or hospital, is she allowed to go for work? The answer is yes, she can. As far as she does not wear anything or does not behave in a way of celebration or happiness, yes, she is allowed to go for work as well. One question came in this regard as well, that if a wife and husband are separated for long period of time, and then the husband dies, passes away, is she, the wife, is obliged to observe Iddah of Wafat 4 months and 10 days? The answer is yes, she must observe Iddah of Wafat, even if she was separated from him. As far as talaq, valid talaq has not been recited with all the conditions, separation itself, any number of years, even if they are separated for 20 years or more, they remain husband and wife. Separation only does not invalidate the marriage. Marriage remains unless there is a valid talaq performed with all the conditions of it. So Iddah is not obligatory on the lady who has been divorced, and the Iddah of divorce has passed, because if the talaq took place recently, before say 1 month or 2 months, and then the husband passed away, Iddah will be also obligatory. But if the talaq took place before say 4 months, because the Iddah of talaq is approximately 3 months. So separation only does not make the lady free from the Iddah of Wafat if the husband passes away. And imagine if a person is married to someone who are just married by nikah only, the aqd only. Marriage was not consummated. And meanwhile, the husband passes away. Will the wife is obliged for Iddah of Wafat? The answer is yes. As far as nikah was recited, even if the marriage is not being consummated yet, Iddah of talaq will be also obligatory.
Thank you very much, Syed, for that detailed answers to that. Syed, now quickly moving on, regarding the Tajil al-Faraj, how is it possible to sincerely pray for the return of the 12th Imam when we are not ready for our Imam?
You see, the responsibility of the believers in the time of the occultation is always to remain sincere obedient followers of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, always to pray for his reappearance, for his safety, for his support from Allah. That prayer is not, in fact, required by the Imam. It is required for us, by us. That confirms our Iman. Allah wants us to be always associated, loving, supporting, thinking, serving our Imam. Our dua will make us better followers. And our dua should encourage us to become better persons who should be ready for the reappearance of our Imam. So there are many reasons which make us pray for our Imam, and many great benefits we get when we pray for our Imam. In fact, whatever we need in our life, people usually pray for more income, better health, more wealth, more respect, and so on. No need and no wish is more important for every believer than the reappearance of our Imam, because the reappearance of our Imam is the key for the solution of all our problems, personal, family, social, and the problem of the whole world. No need which we have is more important for us than the reappearance of our Imam. I remember here a great book written by a scholar from Isfahan, Wadifat al-Anam, the responsibility of people during the ghaibat, the occultation of the Imam. This very important book was translated to many languages. If you can get a copy and go through it, it is a very useful book. In short, praying for the reappearance of the Imam confirms our Iman and makes us better believers, inshallah.
Inshallah. So, moving on to our next question regarding how people say that, especially during when someone dies, and when you come to give some words of consoling someone, and you say, in our language, they say that it's God's decision. For example, Allah ki marzi, for example, is God's decision that, you know, the person has died. So is that really good to say? Because do we really know that it was God's decision that the person has died the way they have died? And for us to say this to the family of the person who's deceased, and especially in the Indian, Pakistani subcontinent, they will say such words that it is God's decisions that the person has died. Is that attributing a lie that it was God's decision that that person had died the way he or she has died? Or if, for example,
it depends on the way of the death. I mean, a person who, say, got corona and passed away. So his family, of course, they will be very sad. And then people tell them that it has been ordained by Allah. But if someone dies in the wrong way, say someone commits suicide and kills himself, they cannot say that Allah has taken his soul, because no doubt he did die, but the way of death was wrong. So it depends on the way how the person passed away. That is a fact that no one will die before his time. No one will die before his time. But some people, they die because of some wrong act they themselves do. We have got hadith that the people who die on their time of death are less than people who die because of their bad acts. And there are people who live longer because of their good deeds. So the deeds also have got a link with the lifespan. Yes, please.
Thank you very much indeed. Sayyidina, we have run out of time, unfortunately. I'd like to thank you for the answers and those who have sent in their questions. I'd like to ask all our viewers to keep our Islamic scholar, especially in the next couple of nights, especially tomorrow evening, to keep our Islamic scholar,